Welcome to Ladies Talking Leafs. I'm Chris.
And I'm Sil.
And starting off the show, we want to wish Leafs legend Borje Salming a happy 71st birthday. He was here recently. I'm sure all the Leaf fans out there saw him with Rick Vive at that, what game was that versus? I forget. Oh God, I didn't write it down.
Remember?
Now I put you on the spot too. Anyhow,
it's recent.
It was recent, obviously, and so he was also in town, I guess, for a movie that's going to be filmed about him, a documentary movie. So that's going to be coming out, I think, by the end of the year. So it was great to see him. He always loves coming to see a Leaf game, unlike some other former Swedish captain player that we have. And so it's been another eventful couple of weeks, and this is our final show of the regular season. Wow, we made it through it. And the next show is going to be on May the 4th of our next show, and we have some good news for the playoffs.
Yes, Leafs Nation, you'll be hearing from us on a weekly basis for the playoffs. We're really excited to be bringing you some additional frequency over that time. Every Wednesday, there will be a new playoff edition of Ladies Talking Leafs. So to ensure you don't miss any episodes, follow us and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite app. That way you'll be among the first to get our latest episode and thoughts on what's happening in the playoffs. And of course, we hope it will be a nice long run.
Yeah. And you can also find us on Facebook podcasts and our YouTube channel, where we're also posting some videos of our own game highlights from Scotiabank Arena when we go to the game. So check those out.
So let's get into some quick news and notes from the past couple of weeks before we move on to bigger and better things. So highly touted winger, 19-year-old Matthew Knies has chosen to go back to the University of Minnesota and play another year of college hockey. The Leafs thought that he was ready to make the jump to the NHL. Obviously, he's a very dynamic player, but Knies wants another opportunity to go for an NCAA championship because I guess he and his teammates, a lot of them, will be together again for another year, so they want to make another run.
Yeah.
And how can you blame him, really?
Yeah, I mean, he's only 19 years old. I know, like, Sheldon Keefe and Kyle Dubas. I mean, Kyle Dubas met with him, I think, to try and get him to want to sign a contract with the Leafs for this season, so that he could possibly play in the playoffs and kind of be our Cole Caulfield, I guess, for this year. But anyways, he decided that he wants to go back for another year, and in a way, I think the Leafs thought that was also a good idea too, because Minnesota apparently is a very good team, and they know that he's, I guess, being well taken care of, let's just say there. And I guess he's also represented, Matthew Knies has also represented Team USA in the World Juniors, and he played for Team USA in Beijing. So all this experience, it can only help him down the road too, when he finally does get to the NHL. So yeah. So
I agree with that. And the other thing is like, where does he slot in right now on our team? Yeah. So, if he's coming in here for a fourth line role, and if that's what he's going to get next year, I'm not sure that's really where he is the best fit. And so another year of roster turnover on our end is probably going to be a better timing for him to come in. Yeah. Although, everyone says, there's only so many years he's got, with Matthews' contract, but, we're hopeful that Matthews will be signing again with us. So that won't be or shouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's going to be an issue, actually. I don't have positive feelings on that. But anyhow, so the Leafs are still currently in second place in the Atlantic when we're recording this podcast on Sunday, April 17th. And we all know that's important because it's going to mean we get home ice for the playoffs, at least for the first round. So yeah, we want to try and keep that separation with Tampa and Boston. Boston's a little bit further behind us now, but yeah. So on the injury front, we got a bit of good news with Rasmus Sandin and Andre Kasha both skating, but still probably won't be. They might be available for the first round at some point, but yeah, they're at least skating anyhow. And a bit more concerning is that Jake Muzzin is dealing with another injury that's not related to the concussion, and we'll talk about this a bit more during the show.
Well, as always, there's lots to talk about, and we are going to start off with our usual good, the bad, and the ugly segment. Then we will run our Ladies Talking Leafs highlight reel, and in our third period segment, we're going to get into the upcoming playoffs, of course, and what we expect and hope to see as the Leafs embark on their all-important second season. So without any further ado, let's talk Leafs.
Okay, so the good, the bad, the ugly. All right, so as usual, I'm starting off with my good. And my good is, or are, the two Ilyas, Ilya Mikheyev and Ilya Lyubushkin. I don't know. They just seem to be getting this good connection, these two guys. And it was funny. I think you saw it too, Sil, as well, with Mikheyev giving Lyubushkin a bit of a
pep talk.
Tips anyways on getting more offensive production. And he told him Mikheyev told Lyubushkin to, like, when he goes in to the offensive zone, like, just close your eyes and shoot. And
that seemed to work.
Happen. And it seemed to work. Yes. He got a goal and assist versus Washington. And I think it was versus Washington. And he it worked for that game anyways. And I don't know. I guess, first of all, with Mikheyev, I just find, I think we tend to forget that this guy also had a broken hand earlier this year. So he hasn't played the full season, but he's finally seems to be back to what his rookie year, what he looked like during the rookie year. And he's got the scoring touch as well, which he had more of back then too. So, just like his speed, he's great on the PK. And he's a big guy, and he's starting to use that size a little bit more. Last night versus Ottawa, he hammered one of the Ottawa Senator players there, so that was a good thing to see. And I don't know if we'll be able to keep him here for next. Like, he is a UFA after this, but won't worry about that right now. It's just good to have him healthy and playing well, whether he's on the third line or if he's playing with JT. He seems to give JT some, or has given JT some more oomph in his game, I guess, and with the energy and that. And then with Lyubushkin, I think, who do you think he reminds me of from in the 2000 era? I'm not like in the Sundin era.
Who does he remind you of?
Former Russian defenseman that we have that was a Leaf. Little bit, anyways. Not quite as big.
Not Markov.
No. But his partner. His partner.
I don't know.
You don't know. Yuskevich.
No, I can't remember. Oh, Yuskevich. Okay, I was thinking of that, but then
because he's not. Yuskevich was only This guy's actually 6'2", whereas Yuskevich is a little bit shorter, 5'11". But But actually, their weight is the same, or close to it. So and the fact that Yuskevich wasn't really, obviously, he wasn't like an offensive producing defenseman. He was a shutdown defenseman and just a guy who would clear the front of the net and just do his job. And that's who he reminds me of a little bit. And but now his family too. I saw earlier last week. His family's joined him.
Did you see how cute his son is? Telling him to to give the puck to the kids, and then I think the last home game, his son actually gave a puck to a young fan.
Oh, really? No,
so
I didn't
he's
see
getting involved in that.
Oh, that's
which is
cool.
So cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. During the warm up, he's basically coaching his dad to give pucks to the young fans.
Oh, wow.
And he participated in it also last time. Yeah. I thought that was really cute.
So yeah, I just think the two Ilyas are
well, they're certainly getting their games together at the right time and making an impact. And the more players that we have joining the party, the better it is for us. So
yeah.
Anyway, speaking of that, my good.
Yeah.
I'm, considering I had this person in my doghouse for so long, I have to give credit where credit is due. And my good is Pierre Engvall. I'm pretty sure that everyone can agree that this guy has got his game together and he is using all his tools. He's so fast. Once he takes his first couple strides getting down the ice, and he's got these long strides, long stick.
Yeah.
He is creating offense, not just for himself, but for his line mates as well. These guys on that third line are a real threat to score, and also on the penalty kill, they're really, really great too. So, yeah, I'm like super impressed with how he's gotten his game together. And I think even Sheldon Keefe has confidence in him now too. So
yeah, I was going to say he was great. He was in Keefe's doghouse as well, not just our doghouse for quite some time.
He's been let out by everyone.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah. I just find too, like he's finally, I think it's the consistency that Keefe was looking for, right?
And he doesn't seem to be making the stupid mistakes that he used to make. So somehow he's kind of got more focus.
Yeah.
Which is making a huge difference.
Yeah.
On the ice.
And he has a bit of feistiness to his game too, sort of. He's kind of got that. And then also I read somewhere that it does make sense actually, since Nylander, I know last night versus the Senators, Keefe switched it up again and put Nylander back with Tavares. But when Nylander's been on the line with David Kampf and Engvall, it just seemed to kind of elevate Engvall a little bit more to want to be better too, because
that's true. I mean, they have a history playing together in Sweden and stuff. So like, I know when they first came up and they were both playing for the Marlies, they were kind of good buddies there as well.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, it's the whole Swedish contingency that we have on our team.
Yes. Yeah, and it's never a bad thing to kind of have that inner competition,
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah. All right. So yes, kudos to Pierre Engvall, and he's been getting a lot of love on Leaf Twitter too. A lot of fans are saying how or noticing how good he's been.
Well, it's very deserved.
Yeah,
he's very deserving of that for sure.
All right. So moving on to the bad. Actually, it's kind of funny, but so my bad is Jake Muzzin. Now, it's not because he's playing bad. It's this whole thing with this injury that he now has once again. And really, I think it's the injury that's going, because the whole season we've basically been, before he got the concussions, we've been saying like he just doesn't look right. So now I'm wondering, whatever it is, if from the beginning of the season that we were noticing that he didn't look right, like if that's the issue, it just keeps going and going, even though he was off for a couple of months anyways for this latest concussion, but now this other injury has flared up again. And I'm just wondering if, like, depending on whether or not if it needs surgery or whatever it is, like if it would have been nice if they would have taken care of it back in October rather than waiting until now basically to try and because there's obviously something wrong. There was that one goal that he could barely move, like it seemed anyways, like he was in position, but he couldn't turn around quick enough. And I don't know what it is. And they're not saying anything. And he's missing both games this weekend versus the Senators and the Islanders. And I don't know if he's going to be, because he can't be playing like this and like for game one of the playoffs. There's just no way we can't have him in the lineup. So yeah, that's my bad, because he's an important piece, obviously, that we would love to have because of his physicality and meanness in his game, which we don't have. I mean, obviously we got Lyubushkin, but he hasn't played, let's just say, as many minutes as Jake Muzzin is used to. And then obviously we also have Giordano, who's maybe has some meanness in his game, but he's not like he's not quite the same type of player as Jake Muzzin.
Well, it definitely would have been nice to have both of them in the lineup, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And
So-
I mean, because he's such a competitor, he's probably going to be in there somehow. He's going to get himself ready to be in there on game one of the playoffs. But yeah, I'm just concerned about that. And it's not a good situation.
I definitely agree with that. And the one thing I wonder is that a year like this, I mean, like, what if it's something like long COVID that he's just not getting over?
That's true.
That's not even an injury, right? But that's something that could, like, look what it did to Jonathan Toews last year. It's, for some people, we don't know the ins and outs of the health and status of these guys. And if it's something like that, that's just not necessarily as easily gotten past. And so I hope it's not something like that. And it's just an injury that can heal. But the way his season has gone, like, I wouldn't be surprised if it was something, that like that. Just because he's just never been able to feel right,
Yeah.
Anyway, let's hope that he gets back, and this is just another temporary kind of small setback, and he gets back in the lineup and can contribute, because we all know that's really what he wants.
Yeah.
He's a competitive guy.
Yeah, for sure.
He wants to be part of it.
Yeah.
So my bad is his former partner, Justin Holl. I don't really know what it is. And I don't know if it's because everybody else seems to be getting better and he just seems to not be able to kind of keep pace with the rest of the team. That's kind of the way I see it, because obviously he's making some good plays. He's scored some goals recently. But there just seems to be some just a misstep, or he's just not quite at the pace. And I don't know if it's his body that's not, or if it's his brain that's not, but I just don't think it's just because he's a big body and he's a right-handed shot that he's in there, I think, all the time. But I just don't know what Keefe is going to do with this, but I guess we will be talking about that later.
Well, Keefe actually recently kind of stuck up for him a little bit, saying like Justin Holl is playing a lot against, or the most out of all the defensemen on the team. He's playing the most against the hardest matchups on the opposing team, which I mean, obviously Keefe would know better than us as to what the matchups and that, which I didn't. I thought Riley and Brody would be ahead.
Should we be blaming Keefe then? Maybe he's playing a little too much against that competition, and he needs to, kind of give him a little bit of a break.
Well, that's what I guess lately in the media and in Leaf Twitter and talking with Leaf fans, like I've seen like to have him more on the third pairing.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, with this Jake Muzzin injury going into the lineup, these pairings, like, you can't really get anything set. And I mean, we'll be talking about this a little bit later in another segment. But I just think too, Justin Holl needs to stop a little bit of thinking of pinching so much on the offensive side, because that's where he, like last night versus Ottawa, like both him and Brody went in, and then it was like a 2-on-0, which obviously they
can't both go.
They can't both go, exactly.
One of you has to stay back.
And that's obviously something like they're not 100% used to playing with each other, obviously, as to like when Brody was playing with Riley, obviously he knows Riley's the guy that's flying around there in the ozone. But with, I think, Holl, I mean, whichever they decide, if that pairing stays the way it is for game one of the playoffs, like they need to decide who's going or communicate a little bit better. And I just find, though, recently Justin Holl has been jumping in a little bit too much for my liking, because he's not that fast a skater, like you mentioned.
Yeah. And the other part of that equation, though, is that, I mean, if he is going to do that, communication is key, and the forwards need to be aware also, you know?
Yeah.
So there just needs to be better all around team defense if that's going to happen. But yeah, it's just like, his skating is just not quite there to get back as fast as, like, for example, like you've mentioned Riley can, like he's just so quick.
Yeah. The only, I think, like obviously Sandin, who's injured, he's fast as well. He can get back. And I think Liljegren is pretty good at that too. But Liljegren he used to be offensive, more on the offensive side of the defenseman. And then his time with the Marlies, they've kind of changed him into a more defensive, responsible player. But I think from his previous experience, I think his skating skills are much better than Justin Holl. But anyhow, I don't know. We'll see. We'll be talking more about the defense a little bit later in the third period. But yeah, so let's go on to our ugly. And we only have the one ugly, which is the Sabres game.
And it really was enough ugly for many, many episodes.
Yeah.
Because it was pretty damn ugly.
Yeah. I just find it's just so weird how we don't show up for the game against our QEW rivals, as they say. They've always had our number. Yeah.
Like, this is going back decades. So I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
With that team, it doesn't matter who's on the ice. It's
strange because I mean, like you said, it's decades. So obviously players that have gone through as Maple Leafs, like they know it's the same thing all the time. Mind you, they say that they've done everything. Like every Maple Leaf coach has said, like they change up the routine. Sometimes they took the bus to Buffalo. Sometimes they like go in on game day. Sometimes they actually go in the night before, even though it's not a long drive, and they stay overnight in a hotel. They do all these different combinations to try and get rid of this demon, I guess, or I don't know what you call it in Buffalo. Whether it be them playing here or there, and we just it just doesn't work out very well. That was just a brutal game, and there's not much else to say about it. So
no, and I mean, I get that it's in the bigger scheme of things. This is just another one of those teams that they just, for whatever reason, the Leafs just don't get up to play against. But it's you're missing out on valuable points every time you do that.
Yeah.
However, am I going to complain at this point that they're not, giving it their all in a game like that? That's just totally gotten away from them at this point. No. If they're going to reserve a little bit in the tank for something else, I'm fine with that. But, I feel bad for anybody who had to go and pay for tickets for that game. That's for darn sure.
Well, yeah. And as long as we don't lose home ice, because if you think of all these non-playoff teams,
100%.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? And there's still a race there. But which is why it's good that they didn't just lay down against Ottawa last night, because it was looking like it was going in that direction in that game too. Yeah,
but they managed to decide that they're going to put it together and actually win that game. So so that was good. Anyhow, there was no highlight reel moments from that ugly Sabres game, but there were plenty of other options from the other games the last couple of weeks. So let's roll the Ladies Talking Leafs highlight reel. All right. Coming in at number 3, we have Michael Bunting. His 2-goal night versus Washington ended his 17-game goalless drought. It was also his 100th NHL game, and apparently his teammates had a few chirps for the 26-year-old rookie.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. I guess they're chirping him because he's a rookie, but and actually he's catching up on the goals too on that, but he's not. I don't know. Everyone's saying he's not going to win the Calder, so there's not much love.
No,
for
the trade-off will be that that Auston will win the Hart. So I just don't think they want to throw all the hardware at our team.
At Leafs, the Leafs, But the fact that he didn't score in 17 games, I actually didn't even notice really because of everything else he does.
Exactly. Yeah. I was actually surprised when I heard that it's been that long that he hadn't scored. Yeah. Because he does so much other stuff, and he's always involved in the play. So, anyways, it was just a matter of time till he got back on the board again. Then, right? So, but good for him. Yes, and
because he was feeling it personally, like he was.
Yeah. No. That was a huge celebration when he got that first one. Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, Tom Wilson wasn't too happy about that for whatever reason. Usual thing.
Yeah, well, because he's Tom Wilson.
Yeah. All right.
Anyway.
Okay, so number 2 on our highlight reel is William Nylander. So Willie's finally back. Yes. And it's on the third line, mind you, but it's great because he makes that line with Kempf and Engvall more of an offensive threat, which we talked a little bit about before. And the highlight reel moment for Nylander was that blast of a shot. That's the one that we picked from the top of the faceoff circle versus the Capitals. It's his 29th goal of the season, and he now has another 30 goal season for Willie. So, that was our highlight reel moment for Willie.
Yeah, another guy who kind of got himself off the schneid there. So definitely, this is what we want to see, Willie getting his game together as we roll in towards the playoffs. So hopefully he can keep it going like he did last year, because he was a threat to score during that first round last year.
Yeah, he was
one of the only ones at that time.
Yeah, he was the top player last year in the playoffs. And what I find impressive too is that for right now, how Keefe is actually keeping his minutes up. He's actually playing between 18 and 19 minutes a night, even though he's been on the third line until last night. There was a bit of a switch up that Keefe did. And so that's, and of course, he's on the power play, so that helps obviously keep his minutes up. So you just got to keep him. They definitely have to keep him, like, he shouldn't be getting third line minutes. Like, he has to be playing at least 18, 19 minutes a night to be effective. And to get the most out of him.
All right. So in our number one spot,
surprise,
is, can we all guess, Auston Matthews. Yes, for the second week in a row, AM34 has topped our highlight reel. So, we obviously do our best to try to mix it up, but how can you not choose Auston Matthews? So he set a new franchise record for goals in a single season, passing Rick Vive, who previously held the record, scoring 54 goals back in 1982. He has scored his 50th and 51st goals of the season in 50 games, and he did this versus the Habs on April 9th. And he's also joined the Leafs elite 100-point club, getting an assist on Bunting's goal versus the Capitals. Only two other Leafs have had 100-point seasons, if you can believe it, in our over 100-year history, and that is Darryl Sittler and Doug Gilmour, who each did it twice.
Yeah, I mean, what more can you have to pick him as number one on the highlight reel right now. Like, it makes more than total sense. And I just hope, you did mention the Hart Trophy. I just hope that they don't, whoever it is that's voting for it, the media members and that they don't overlook him for whatever reason, if they decide to, because I know Huberdeau in Florida is having an amazing year as well, but he is a winger.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's doing this as a centerman, and it's
huge difference.
That's a huge difference. So, the other thing is Huberdeau doesn't have as many goals either. So, being in that position, and that the way he has improved his game across the board, how he scores, he has the most assists that he's ever had also this year.
Yeah.
And it's a spectacular special season that he's putting together. So,
sure. Yeah, but we do want to give an honorable mention to Morgan Riley, who's also been playing pretty phenomenal. He's now just 7 points shy of his career high in points, which was 72 back in he had 72 points. That was the 20-goal season he had back in the 2018-19 season. And now he has 301 career assists, placing him fifth in that category all time for Leafs defensemen, only a point behind Ian Turnbull for fourth. So you got to give it to Mo there. He's having an outstanding year ever since he signed that contract.
Yeah, looks like he's all settled, home and cooled out, and he can just worry about what he's doing on the ice, which is... That's what you want to see. So obviously you have to give credit to Matthews, which we have done with all these franchise records and milestones he's hitting. He, at least publicly, is saying he's focused on bigger things, which we obviously know is the playoffs. And of course, that's the focus of our third period segment.
Yeah. So to start it off here, I'm going to start it off, as mentioned in our previous segment, the good, the bad, the ugly. We're going to talk about the D pairings. I want to talk about the D pairings for opening night of the playoffs. Right now, my choice for D pairings actually is what we saw last night versus the Senators, which is to have Riley with Lyubushkin and Brody with Holl, and Giordano with Liljegren. And there's a good article actually that it's from the Leafs Nation blog, and we put it in our show notes if the listeners want to have a look at it. But it makes sense to have a knock on wood that everybody stays healthy like this, and but it makes sense to put. I'll go through each one of them anyways, just quickly. So Riley is best paired with Lyubushkin because with Lyubushkin, he's actually made this pairing more steady, and the stats show that with the high danger choices, now we're getting into statistics or analytics a little bit, so that's why it's good to read this article too. But the higher danger chances and goals against are better than when Riley was with Brody. 5-on-5, we're talking just 5-on-5 on the D pairings. But yeah, so that's an important thing when you think of it, and it's really important to have that as a D pairing. And it seems Riley, well, Lyubushkin seems to be liked by everybody on the team anyways. And that's what, even when the Arizona players, they were really actually apparently quite sad to see him go. He's a real good team guy. But yeah, so I think Riley and Lyubushkin, and then putting Brody with Holl. Again, the stats show that for high danger scoring chances, they're actually lower when Brody is playing with Holl as opposed to Brody and Riley.
That is interesting. And actually, I have to say that, listening to you say this, given that, it was a little bit unsettled at the beginning when Riley was paired with Lyubushkin, but, once that settled down, I haven't noticed Riley getting, caught in weird spots or anything like that. Like it's just been kind of rolling. Yeah. The eye test really, I think, matches the stats.
Yeah. And then with Liljegren and Giordano, I mean, there's no denying.
No question that they've got good chemistry.
Yeah, Giordano has basically stabilized that third pairing. And considering too, Liljegren, this is his first full season, right? So we're going into the playoffs. I at the beginning of the year.
Uncharted territory.
Yeah. So to have a veteran like Giordano, and you could just see the confidence there. It's really gone well for that pairing. And then Sandin and Muzzin would be the extras, basically. And this will be for game one anyways. And that's what I'm looking at, because with Sandin, obviously it's a knee injury. We don't know how long it's going to be. And and Sheldon Keefe, for his part, obviously he's been experimenting a lot. We'll see tonight versus the Islanders what he chooses to do if Muzzin's not playing. So I don't know. I guess it's going to be the same pairings for tonight's game. And he has said, Keefe did say right now he has 4 left shot D. That would include Muzzin, basically, when I looked at the left shot, right shot D that we have. So for him, for the playoffs, he has 4 left shot D and 2 spots for the right shot. That leaves 2 spots for the right. So somebody, whether it be Holl or Liljegren, in his mind right now anyways, I don't agree with that because I think Muzzin should sit, but depending on if he's not 100%. But either Holl or Liljegren would be the one to sit, basically, I think, according to what Keith said. I think it was on Friday he said that. But
so do you think that who we end up playing will dictate also who is sitting out versus in?
Yeah, because he did that too, even with our fourth line on versus the Capitals, right? He chose to put in Simmons and Clifford. Yeah, for that type of game, knowing that the Capitals are a big, strong team, sort of thing. So it'd be
interesting to see, when we play Tampa again. Coming up. Yeah, who he opts to play in that game.
Yeah. So I don't know. So do you agree with those pairings, or do you think of?
I do. I mean, right now, I think those are your most steady pairs, and I think you kind of want to go into it with what the rest of it is kind of all speculation, because you haven't had a chance to really see it for any length, and of course we don't even know where Sandin would slot in if he were to come back, like, who's coming out then, or are they going to try to get him to play on his opposite side? Cause I know he can, but he has not been doing that at all this year. And now he's been laid up. So it's like, is now the time that you want to
in the playoffs
experiment with that,
Yeah, no.
So, yeah, I mean, I feel for the guy because there's a potential that he's not going to get in this first series at all.
Yeah. And who would have thought that being between him and Liljegren?
Yeah, I never would have thought that. Not at the beginning of the year. No. So it's bad luck for him for sure.
Yeah, but anyways, at least we have the depth though for a change. So because injuries do happen, right? So we know that as hopefully, like we said it before, we go in the long run and we might need the extra. Well, we probably will need the extra defenseman anyways at some point during the playoffs. So so what did you want to talk about for this third period?
Well, I mean, mine is looking at the opposite end of the ice and, what do we expect from the offense and what does Keefe need to do to get the most out of them? So obviously the offense was the big disappointment in the first round last year. And of course, this whole season, has been, in wait for, what they could do to basically, shake off that bad taste from last year. And Matthews and Marner, obviously, Marner, the bigger scapegoat of the two. What do we want to see from them going forward this time around? Like, what is it going to take for us to turn the page on that as fans is kind of what I'm getting at.
Yeah. For me, I don't think there's, like you're saying, like what's going to motivate them, but for the first round anyways, I don't think there should, I think they already should have their motivation being. I didn't really say anything about their motivation. I'm more talking about, what as us fans, like, what do we need to see from them for us to kind of believe that they're that's different this year? Well, Matthews and Marner need to take it to another level, basically. I mean, it's a different level in the playoffs. Those two need to just play beyond what they're doing right now, too, because it's a different game in the playoffs, and they know 100%. That, and we know that. So I think and I also think that given what happened to Tavares last year, he needs to have, and I think he will have an excellent playoff just because of what happened last year for him and that awful injury that happened in the first round. So and then with Nylander, like we already said, he was basically probably the best player last year. He needs to, and it looks like he is getting back to that form again. He had a little bit of a lull, as Willie does, and but now moving into the playoffs. So those the core four there, those are the four that need to get it done, and in order for the fans to to forget about everything else that's happened from in the past, right? And at least for the 5 years, I guess that they, or no, actually, is it 5 or 6 years? What I
really want to see is I want to see them go in there and always play their game. I really feel like, the last 4 years, what has happened, because they've gotten up, in all of these series and could have got it done every single time. But what I found kind of happened is that they let the opposition dictate play. And so, in those games that basically went down the toilet, we didn't play our game. We let the other team dictate. And I think that consistently they need to play their game and not let the opposition get them off of that. And in that regard, I wonder what Keefe needs to do. When does he need to pull the trigger? Because I found the first year when he kind of was, he was just kind of came in partway through the season. So in his first playoff, that one against Columbus, maybe he didn't tinker enough. Last year, he sort of tinkered too much. But I guess he's kind of desperate to find something. I just kind of wonder what's the level and what does he kind of need to do to get these guys to keep their mojo going, kind of thing,
Yeah. Well, I think Keefe actually has done a because now this is his first full regular season, just like us.
Which is hard to believe,
I know.
right?
Yeah. I think it's given him, especially this last month or so, when it comes to like making adjustments and tinkering with the lineup and all that. He's been given the opportunity to do that during the regular season. So I think that's really going to bode well for him for the playoffs and making decisions when he's needing to change things up and get things going if things aren't going well, let's just say. But one thing I noticed though earlier last week, Paul McLean, which I didn't even remember that he was with the organization. He was actually at the practice last week. And he was the one that said in that Amazon series, the biggest enemy is themselves.
That's right.
Right. And so I just think like when they get ahead in the series too, obviously I say when, not if, but when they get ahead, that. Like they need that, again, the killer instinct, which we've talked about.
Yeah, they need to put it away.
Yes. They need to put it, and on opposite, when they're down, I think we've had a lot of examples in the regular season anyways, that like we can catch, like last night, for example, we were down 2-0, but it was the Ottawa Senators. So we came back, we won. But that sort of thing, like they can't let that in the playoffs, obviously, versus a team like Tampa or Boston. When they're down, they still have to take that mentality to stick with their game, like the way you're saying.
Exactly.
And eventually it's going to pan out for them. Maybe not every night, but I mean, during a 7-game series, if you stick to it, it's going to happen for you. But one thing I wanted to ask you, I'm putting you on the spot though, too. Remember last year you said you didn't like that, that thing that Keefe came up with, or the team, whatever. It was the puck putting the...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, their Stanley Cup thing.
Yeah, I was trying to think, what else could they do?
I don't know. Honestly, why do you need that kind of gimmick?
You think it's
to
just...
motivate yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why do you need that?
Yeah, that's what, I don't know. I was trying to think, what else could you do?
I mean, it was kind of cute. I did have an idea, and actually, if you would have given me a heads up, maybe I could have recalled the thought that I had of what they could do.
Well, maybe
I'll think about it for the next show. See if I can come up with some sort of creative idea for them. But part of the reason why I didn't like it is because when that hole there for the fourth one is there for game after game after game.
Yeah, that's right.
They were just mentally, I think they were just a little too fragile.
That's true.
And so then it was like there for, 4 games in a row and you're trying to get over that hump. I don't know. I don't think you need that kind of mental
that makes
gimmick.
Sense. Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
Yeah.
It does make sense to see the empty hole there. Well,
That's what came to my mind. It's like, you're looking at that, the first day, fine. The second day, you're kind of starting to wonder. The third day, you're like, holy shit, that thing is still empty. So I don't know.
Well, hopefully it's not going to happen again. So maybe they just won't. No. We think that for now, anyways, we think it's best not to have anything like that. So, but there's still 7 games to go here in the regular season from when we're recording this podcast. And the exact playoff seeding is still a question mark. Right now, we're still in second in the Atlantic, like we said. But let's take a look at the final stretch of games to the end of for the end of this 21-22 NHL regular season.
So tonight we play the Islanders. This is the kind of the flip-flopped schedule that we were supposed to play there back in December, I think. And then we play Philadelphia on Tuesday before heading out for the final road trip of this season with 2 very important games versus Tampa and Florida.
Yeah. If we can win that game versus Tampa, I mean, even these, depending on what Tampa does, I guess, during this week as well. I don't know who they're playing. But I guess if we can win, whether it be tonight and the Philadelphia game, or one of them anyways. And then, but if we win one of these 2 and then we win against Tampa, I think we'll be okay. And then Florida, I'm just looking for basically to not have a repeat of the game in Florida from a couple of weeks ago. I'd prefer it more the game that we played here.
Yeah. But somewhere in between those two would also be nice.
Yeah. And obviously that we come up with the win.
Yes. Yes.
But it's going to be tough being.
Yeah. And like I said, I'm definitely going to be, watching that Tampa game to see, what kind of field Keefe puts out and how he switches things up. Although I don't think he's going to be wanting to lay out too many cards, though, as far as the coaching goes either. So.
Yeah, so after the Florida game, the final road game of the season is in Washington. And then we come home to play the Red Wings on the 26th. And then the final home game versus the Bruins on Friday night, which again, it could be a very important game depending on what the Bruins do from now until then. But I don't know, they're a little bit behind us now. I think they're 7 points behind us now. But because they've had a couple of losses in a row. And I mean, the game of the Red Wings, that one we should win. Definitely. Again, with these non-playoff teams in the game versus Washington, it might be more important for them again.
Yeah, for them.
Yeah, being the wild card positioning and stuff like that. So,
well, they beat up on Montreal pretty good last night, which is good to see.
Yeah. Yeah, but so then it's all done, and and we head into the postseason, the very important playoffs that everyone's been. So we'll have to start getting our phone books out and calling those people that said call me for the playoffs. Start calling the people saying hello.
Right. Calling back in. Hello, it's time for the playoffs.
Yeah, this is what happened for the season, and this is where we placed. So yeah.
So like we were saying before, we got through our first complete regular season of the podcast, our first full 82 game season.
We're doing a high five to each other through the screen here.
That's right. Yeah. And we're hoping the Leafs go on a long playoff run so that we can bring you a lot more of Ladies Talkin' Leafs.
Yeah, and don't forget, after our next show on May the 4th, we're going to be going weekly for the playoffs. Be sure to subscribe and follow our show wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And a reminder to be sure to also leave us a rating or review and let us know what you think of the show. And if you have any suggestions too, we're open for suggestions. So, or any questions, anything. Let us know. It's easy on Apple and Spotify. You can leave a review, and it's important for us so that our show can get more exposure as a source for Leaf content. And we thank you for taking the time.
And you can also DM us on social media anytime. Our handle is at LTL1917, or you can email us at ladiestalkinleafs@gmail.com and give us your thoughts on the show. And also check out our website, ladiestalkinleafs.com, where we have a new blog section, and we will be adding new content in the next little while. And if you can also find links to our guest interviews that we did on Hockey Time Machine, where you can find out more about us.
And another way to help us out is by visiting our Ko-fi page at ko-fi.com. It's ko-fi.com/LTL1917. You can follow us there, and if you choose to, you can support us by buying us a coffee. Any donation goes towards helping us produce the show and making it even better for you. Find the link to our Ko-fi page on our show notes or in any of our social media profile pages. Before we go, we always want to take time to thank our healthcare workers and first responders for everything they do. So thank you.
So enjoy the next couple of weeks of the season. And next time we talk Leafs, where we hope it will be with the Leafs having home ice in the first round of the playoffs.
Go
Leafs, go!